Hello! Hello, and welcome. Obviously, we're getting started with a slightly different thing going on today. And of course, as I'm watching everything be kind of slowed down, I have concerns, TM. But yes, hello. Obviously, it is me alone today. Unfortunately, my regular co-host normally would be probably too exhausted to join today around this time. Unfortunately, he is a little bit under the weather and not really able to join. But I do want to try. I want to try to be, I guess, a little more consistent when it comes to streaming. Anyway, you may notice that there's a slightly, well, completely blank screen right now. So, since it's just me talking, might as well get a nice little blurry close-up of my face. Okay, that's not better. And here you get to see some of the green artifacting. Anyway, there I am. Nice and center screen for you. Or at least, you know, the Lorelei avatar. Garrus, no! Garrus? Garrus. Come on. There you go. He decided to jump up and, well, he knows he's not supposed to do that. My baby. Hello, baby. He just wants love because he is baby. Anyway. It's been a heck of a week. I've run the gamut of things going okay, things being busy, things being productive, and just wanting to crawl under the covers and pull a blanket over my head and forget that reality exists for a little bit, for the time being. I will say that there has been, you've been hearing me on my Yeti here, the Blue Yeti. I've had it since like 2014, something like that. It's been a pretty handy little thing, and it holds up really well this entire time. It's actually been pretty consistent, and a lot of my early internet work has been done on this microphone. Hydrating in advance. I am looking forward to getting something of a new setup soon. Hopefully. A handful of possibilities in terms of the overall setup. I might end up still using this mic, but less likely to be something that records bumps and everything else going on. Especially as I try to... Did I mention that this has been a crawl under the blanket and stop existing kind of week? Because I am tired. Garrus. Oh gosh. Why? Get down. Something was hanging from his mouth that he should not have been eating. Sweetheart. Don't eat things. Not like that. Don't just eat anything you find on the ground. Unless you just wanted fucking attention. Hello. Anyway. Once I get a superior setup, I'm actually hoping to have an improved audio setup just overall, especially for recording purposes. I'm now going to have a shock mount and a scissor arm, which is going to help significantly with reducing bumps to the computer. Garrus! Garrus! I love spasming. I also love that her hand is not showing up when I spasm too hard. Ah, goodness. Garrus, sweetheart. Psst, psst, psst. Hey, Garrus. Psst, psst, psst. Garrus. You. Down. Yeah. What is a stream without interruptions by kitties? Anyway, I'm looking forward to that. I have been doing some writing both for my ongoing project that some people, especially patrons, have been seeing updates on when it comes to the art progress for that. A lot of this is the slow, early work that leads into the bigger project. To give a little bit more insight into that, I'm planning on making a web series. A web series that's sort of in the style of a visual novel, whereas you have sprites similar to the one that I currently have on screen, for example. And they're going to be it's going to be voice acted, there's going to be backgrounds, and there's going to be quite possibly text boxes, or at least subtitles, something along those lines. But it is going to be that style, that format, so a lot of the work going into it is just doing these sprites in advance of actually, getting everything done. I've been doing the writing, which in this particular case largely consists of doing the outlines for the episodes. I've been doing some scripting, I've been doing some character background stuff that needs to happen. I've had these characters more or less for several years now, but I'm looking forward to actually putting them out there into the world. It's a story, pardon me for making noise here, if you have been a fan of the Lorelei channel for long enough, you may recall that there was a brief venture into something called The Golden Binding. It was a series that I had attempted to put together way back when. Unfortunately, I had underestimated how much work was going to go into something like that. And as a result, I kind of burned out, like in the span of maybe 2 months. But it was an attempt to make something, and that story has never really left. I've always wanted to reiterate it at some point, but it's been through a few changes, to say the least. But it's still going to be somewhat the same dynamic that was presented. Of course, pre-roll ads. Nice. It's going to be presented significantly differently. It's going to be very different. I've shifted genres oh so slightly. It's still going to be slice of life, for the most part. In terms of other stuff that I've been working on, I think I've mentioned it before, but I have a song cover, specifically a lyrical cover of a song, and it's been in the works for a hot minute or so. I've actually got a couple of lyrical covers, but one of which is more primarily on the table than the other. And I'm already in the casting stages, because I've got the instrumental that I need, I have the lyrics, I have the harmonies. I just have to do basically a scratch and recruit everyone that I want to recruit for it. And then the recording process can begin. And then. Oh, audio mixing. Not exactly a skill set I have. Zelda, you were in the closet? Generally speaking, I don't want to force anyone out of the closet. That's not exactly my modus operandi here. But Zelda really should not be in the closet. Sweetheart, what do you want? Don't eat things off of the floor! Zelda! She comes out and she licks at the carpet. I don't know if there was even anything there for her to lick up. She just liked the texture, I guess. That's how you get diseases. Randomly licking things, that is. Not to say that our floor here is particularly disease infested, but you know, you don't really want to run that risk. Anyway, I know that this has been super exciting. Just listen to me talk about stuff, but I kind of want to give this more of a shot, get a little bit more practice in with it. Sometimes I do that while I'm drawing, but I find that it does actually distract me enough that I can't concentrate on what I'm saying. And of course, as I would like to get more into the habit of running commentary or podcast style streams, recordings, whatever, I need to get used to actually just speaking, you know? Like the good old days of my Let's Plays, which I had the aid of a video game to fill in the time. And to provide subject matter, for that matter. Subject matter, for that matter, matters not. Did I mention I'm tired? I did also, like I said, I think I've even said this before, but Lorelei has obviously undergone a bit of a redesign, and the update comes with technically its own story. You know, like most VTubers nowadays, just the one day. Most VTubers have some kind of backstory or something along those lines with the characters that they portray themselves as. There continues to be one for this one, although it is not part of the original Ballad of Lorelei timeline. It's different. Well, I will say, and I don't want this to be a pressure to anyone who's, whether now or in the future. I do see that there are a couple of people watching, supposedly, at least according to my Twitch dashboard. I speak for a living. Dashboard. It says that there are a couple of people. I understand lurking. I'm not always. I'm a professional lurker. Like, if you're in a Discord server with me, you know exactly how quiet I can be sometimes. So I don't want to necessarily pressure everyone into talking, but at the same time, I want to encourage people to not be shy. I want to chat with you. I mean, that's why I do this. As much as I love the sound of my own voice, anyway. But there is a sort of, I'm hoping to start getting into subject-based, like, streaming. I'm debating a handful of things, including just an ongoing, I want to do commentary stuff in the sense of, like, talking about ongoing current events, things that are related to either political happenings or at least somewhat events that are happening in the world as they exist. I can't say that I'm particularly a drama spectator or anything along those lines. Goodness knows that getting involved in drama is kind of the last thing that I need. Honestly, I think it's the last thing any of us needs. Getting involved in drama just tends to have the profound effect of making us start craving drama and searching out drama and reliving the outrage or the upset or the smugness that comes from putting down that particularly dumb person who happens to disagree with you. I don't think that that's terribly productive. I say, as I, find myself watching some of those things as background noise. I don't really follow the drama part of it, but it's more just listening to arguments that are made, regardless of where I stand on the subject. It's always interesting to hear multiple perspectives. As it turns out, you can make more informed decisions when you hear perspectives that are different from yours. Of course, I'm always correct. So whenever you come here, you can expect to get the pure, honest truth. Because I'm always right. Oh boy. I've mentioned it before. I have a throat spray that is meant to help with things like if I'm talking continuously, endlessly speaking. But it is one heck of a kick. I also think I missed a little bit and hit more of my nasal palate than my actual throat. Oh well. Part of the problem is mucus production, so it should hopefully stop that. Finger guns that I can't do because I don't have a VTuber model. I just have this ping tube model. But I mean, going forward, and like, whether you're watching this live or if you're watching this after the fact, after it gets uploaded to YouTube, I would actually love to hear from you guys about subjects that you'd like to hear me possibly talk about or elaborate on, whether it is some kind of current event or if there's something else that's going on, or even like advice if you want to actually follow that. Speaking of, actually, so I'm not promoting this, but a good chunk of you out there have heard of OnlyFans, right? It's infamously not safe for work. It's an interesting prospect, and for people who are able to make it on there, it's a pretty good deal. I don't do not safe for work stuff. Not exactly. Not yet. But I do have, there's this alternative social media paywall site called Fan House. And they do a 90%, 10% split, with the creator getting 90% with their revenue. It's basically similar to OnlyFans in that you basically pay a subscription to a particular creator, and you get access to like basically a private wall where you can talk with that creator, and a feature that comes later, once, say, I, for example, get enough actual subscribers, like paid subscribers over on the Fan House, I can put up custom options, custom requests for things like giving advice, or, that was hence why I was reminded of that. If anyone had questions that they wanted to ask of me, seeking advice from me, or getting particular requests for audio clips or art, like sort of like mini art commissions, sketches, or something like that. Things along those lines. And I do not yet have anything like that. I don't have access to making custom things yet, because having just started out on Fan House and not having produced nearly so much in the last couple of years, I can't exactly say that I have a thriving community of people who want to sign up for something like that. That said, the people who have stuck with me this entire time, I say it means a lot to me. Everyone always says it means a lot to them, but it has literally, kept me being able to get up every day. I may not always be able to rise to the occasion of doing all of the things that I want to do, but the desire to do those things is still definitely there. And feeling like, at least if I do them, that someone out there is going to get something out of it. So I always appreciate that. And it's because of that I've actually been working on these things in the background. As well as, like I said, writing the scripts for that one particular web series concept, as well as working on an outline for a planned book series, maybe, perhaps. Somewhat depends. I should be writing more. That was literally the thing that I wanted to do as a kid. And then along the lines, I was like, well, I like drawing. Maybe I could do webcomics. And I tried that for a while. But while I was working on the art for the webcomics, I was listening to stuff on the YouTube as it started becoming more and more popular. And the whole concept of a Let's Play ended up crossing my ears. And then I ended up actually doing some Let's Play work. Now, of course, I remember, this may be funny to those of you who know me from voice work stuff and everything, but I didn't know how my voice would be received. I was actually worried that people would find my voice annoying or something to nitpick about it. So I remember doing those early recordings, and of course, I think they're no longer on the channel, but I was incredibly awkward. I was incredibly... I was awkward. I can still be very awkward. Why did it get mad? My avatar. Anyway, I can still be very awkward, obviously. But, I remember being sure that people would dislike what I was doing. And of course, I was working on a very primitive setup back then. Of course, people having access to things like microphones, good cameras, good recording equipment, and all of that was extremely limited and not even really expected back in the early days of the Let's Play community. It wasn't until it got streamlined by people who had access to all of the special equipment before it actually started actually catching on the way that it did. But in the early days, you would have a lot of Let's Plays of people with a lot of incredible static in the background, or recording off of their TV screens because capture cards were extremely rare, and consoles did not come equipped with them once upon a time. Excuse me while I hydrate. So yeah, in the good old West days of the Let's Playing, I would like to think of middling talent with it. And then getting into that, people would tell me, "Oh, you have such a nice voice. Oh, I love listening to your voice. You've got such a pretty voice. I've fallen asleep to your voice before." People would start saying that stuff, and I was like, "Really? Are you sure? Me? Really?" And so I started getting into the idea of doing potentially voice acting. And also I enjoyed singing, but I didn't exactly have a great old time of it back in the day. I actually used to be convinced, and it wasn't until recently that, or recently, like the last 7 years maybe, but early on anyway, I was convinced that I had to record it all in one take. And that if I couldn't do it all in one take, that, that was it. So a lot of my early attempts were pretty bad. Why does it get mad so easily? I guess I should be adjusting the actual... I should be adjusting the actual sensitivity if I don't like it yelling like that. But... So anyway, that's been my journey into doing the voice work stuff. A lot of you probably know of my role playing Toriel in a certain internet musical, and things kind of took off from there. And then I decided, apparently, to fade back into obscurity by letting chronic illness get the best of me. Anyway, obviously today has been more talky heavy, and this will probably get easier if I do this more consistently and continue to, put out content that people actually want to see. I will say, I'm on Twitch right now, and I upload the videos over to YouTube afterwards. Given all of the recent drama when it comes to Twitch, there is a good fucking chance that I'm going to be moving things over back to YouTube again, because they are, in fact, ridiculous here on the Twitch. Once upon a time, making partner meant that you actually got some kind of significant boost financially out of that, but now, with there being a 50% split, like, at least YouTube, even YouTube is able to do a 70-30 split, which I thought was egregious and ridiculous, because I know it's a hosting platform, but, like, they would not be making that money if not for the content creator. That's a general rule of thumb when it comes to YouTube anyway, but, and so by putting out, oh no, we're going to be cutting the revenue, oh no, we're going to be splicing in more ads, people are going to have to wait through 6 fucking minutes of ads just to watch a streamer. And if you don't, as has been pointed out by people considerably more stream savvy than me, people don't want to have to sit through 6 minutes for some new streamer. The discoverability has now been completely slashed, utterly slashed, thrown down. People are not going to want to stick around through 6 minutes of ads unless you know that someone is worth waiting for. Imagine waiting for 6 minutes of ads only to find out a person is sitting there staring blankly, saying nothing, doing nothing, not really streaming for the sake of having the internet connection and having the chat open. Why would you wait to find out if that's the case? So they are actively killing their platform, and I say this being on their platform, but hopefully not for too much longer. I'll probably even be thinking about switching things out in the coming week, presuming that first of all, presuming that I stay consistently streaming actually on the weekends, as well as whether or not I actually start streaming consistently just in general. That would be nice. So, let's see. That's always a good sign, right? When it's like, so let's see, what's interesting to me? I do have plans for certain games that I would like to stream, especially in the Spookmas month. I am looking forward to a certain series picking up a certain third season of a certain show on the Disney. If you have not watched The Owl House, watch it. It's worth it. It's good. It's a great art style. It is a fantastic story. The writing is amazing. The voice acting is phenomenal. The animation, like in places, especially when it's very clear that they pulled out the good animators, they do it at just the right moments. And it's so good. Everything from the story to even like the fight choreography, integrating magic in a believable way. You know, it's so good. It's so good. Watch it, guys. I'm looking forward to that resuming. I am not looking forward to it being only 3 45-minute episodes. But it is what it is. I'm looking forward to that continuing because there's a particular character where if you know me, you know my type, a certain blonde kid who deserves so much better than he's gotten. I'm hoping that things turn out okay for all of the kids in that show. I'm keeping it vague in case there is anyone actually watching this who has not actually seen the show or not caught up presently through the second season. Something else I've actually been debating doing has been doing reactions, because everyone knows that doing reactions is how you show that you're a good YouTube content creator. Obviously, it depends on how you react to things. As if it's not obvious, I would probably be a far more analytical analysis type person. Doing a lot of the pausing and dissecting things that we've actually just seen, things along those lines. Obviously, I'd have to be careful in how I go about that because, well, YouTube copyright system, not fun. It can be a nightmare to navigate. To that effect, I'm still debating what options I would like to potentially go over. There are plenty of things that I have not seen, being a little sheltered kid like I am. I am not a kid. So to that effect, if you guys are watching this, I know, always the constant call to action, but if you are watching this either live or after the fact, probably after the fact. If you have any ideas for things that you would like to see me react to, analyze, dissect, stuff like that, again, I do read the comments. I promise you, I read every comment. So, comment below if you have a suggestion for a subject for me to react to. I would react to YouTube videos, but I think that market has been somewhat cornered. Excuse me. I mean, not to say that I'm writing that off the table. I don't know that that would necessarily be the starting point that I should take, especially because what if it started getting super meta and I react to people reacting to stuff? Watch someone react to Hamilton's It's Quiet Uptown, and as soon as they start crying, I start bawling, and it's like, yes, I will cry with you! This song is so sad! It is sad, by the way. But yeah, in terms of just, I would love to hear from what people would actually like to hear, because there's a number of things that I know I would like to cover, watch, etc. There are a handful of things that I've even been kind of putting off actually watching because, you know, I've been toying with the subject, the concept of doing reactions for a while. There's some things where I've seen, for example, the first season of the She-Ra reboot, and I've seen the first season of Komi Can't Communicate, for example. I would be extremely late to reacting to She-Ra, but I know that there are some people who will, in fact, go long out of their way to react to... Or, like, a lot of people actually appreciate when someone goes back to react to something that's already been out for some time. Because most reactors end up doing stuff whatever is currently, well, current. And that doesn't exactly bode well for older media, older movies, TV shows, and even stuff that gets uploaded to the YouTubes. Not, like I said, not to say that I wouldn't react to YouTube stuff, just, well, anyway. There's some older options, too. I might even, like, dig up something I have seen before but haven't watched in a long while, like movies/TV shows from my youth. From the youth. But it's been a while since I've watched quite a few things, and I imagine I would have just as much fun reliving them today. I actually rewatched... I periodically will rewatch the movie Clue. And I had the distinct pleasure of taking a certain co-host of mine through that movie for the first time in his life. He'd literally never seen Clue, or I think it's Cluedo over in the UK. And it's literally, I think, one of the best movies ever made. And I don't know if other people have actually seen it. If you haven't, you have been deprived. Please find it out and watch it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it... Because I remember, I think I saw it on YouTube on the free with ads option. Let's see. Let's see. Clue. Oh, it's no longer free with ads. It's buy or rent. Oh yeah, it was a movie that came out the year I was born. Interesting. Oh, well, immediately I searched for Clue, and, 3 videos down, someone has, literally in the thumbnail, Clue is the best movie ever. I happen to agree, Too Much Glee. Thank you very much for posting this opinion. I concur. But it's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Ugh. Hey, Boba Fett, it's been a while since we've had you out this way. I'm literally just sitting here talking to myself. Have been for a little time. Been busy doing so much school stuff. I try to get caught up and get like 4 things. Yeah. Sort of the problem with school. School's just a collective problem, honestly. It's really also not handled well, at least in the United States. There are things that I didn't even know about until talking with people who were in other countries about this. But, like, it's basically considered a bad thing to get a passing grade. Getting a C is considered pretty bad. And even worse, a C here is something like a B, or even I think it would be like a B in other countries. 3 weeks of reading to do in like 1 day, but that's on me for being absolutely bad at reading. I mean, I don't know. Everyone has different like abilities. Everyone has different preferences when it comes to reading, and it depends on the thing that you've got to read. I know that if you hand me a technical manual, I would look at it and my eyes would cross and my brain would refuse to absorb anything. But you hand me a book and I can usually read through a good chunk of it in the span of 1 day. It depends obviously on the length of the book, but and there are people who fall in between. I will say that unfortunately we also live in a society that has made reading unenjoyable, especially because it becomes like mandated by classwork and all of that. So having to read a book can end up sucking the joy out of it, especially if it's mandatory and especially if there is stress involved in the eventual analysis of that book. I do think that it's good to try and encourage people to read more often. I think that and I get why it's not always easy to have the resources to do this. I do think that it would be better achieved if kids were able to actually pick out their own book, something that they would, in fact, enjoy, and be able to dissect it from there. The reason why this isn't necessarily as feasible for everyone, especially in an environment where teachers are expected to just sort of generically pump out kids to graduation to a grade as opposed to actually developing critical thinking skills. And so, of course, it's a lot easier to grade papers if there is one sort of definitive answer or one single story to dissect, because you start getting a lot of, like, having the teacher be familiar with the material is important, I guess. But I do think that it would be far more beneficial to kids to be able to actually pick out what they want to read. That's understandable. It's more just specific articles, and it's hard to get caught up since I have so much other stuff to do. Yeah. Specific articles, depending on what it's for, technical stuff, or like, especially if it's something like a science article or something along those lines, I can see that anything that is nonfiction and is very cut and dry can be hard reading. Like, that's true for me, that's true for most people. Having to read something that doesn't even pretend to be, like, entertaining in any way makes it a lot harder. And, of course, because most kids are taught, and have been since my generation, and probably before that, probably even the generation of my brothers, that writing is a means to an end and not so much an enjoyable creative activity. Now, I say this, both of my brothers were incredible writers. They have a way with words, and that's just how they are. I would like to think that I'm a writer, but I don't have any easily available prose to shove in your faces. The best that I have is either the creative work that I've done, which isn't exactly the most exemplar example of my writing, but I hope to someday. I don't have time to do this. I'm trying to do this thing and give myself time to enjoy the weekend and finish most of my schoolwork within the next 30 minutes to an hour so I can hang out with some friends when I'm finished. I mean, that's just it. Okay. I believe wholeheartedly that people, that especially kids, have a better time growing up into adulthood as critically thinking, intelligent, informed, educated adults if they also get to spend their time doing other things. Now, there's a chance that you have procrastinated, which I'm not actually judging. I say as it shakes in anger. Oh, I see that I'm blocking the chat. Ooh, Oh, that's why. Okay, you can... let's pop you down a little bit. Good. I think? Yeah, there we go. Now the chat is over me. But it's still, like... I have a lot of problems with the education system, and I do understand why some things are the way they are, especially because we are so ridiculously understaffed when it comes to the education of kids. I think that it would do us really good to not only be able to incentivize more teachers actually getting into the profession, but making it considerably less strict and formulaic in terms of education. Because if we have more teachers available to actually dispense the information, there's more variety available, and that's how you can achieve things like kids picking up their own reading material for the subject at hand. I did do some procrastinating. Well, kinda needed to run out and get something for a friend's birthday, and I have the entirety of tomorrow to get the rest of my stuff done. I'm just trying to do this time management. Yeah, time management is a bitch. I love that I was saying that so calmly, and yet it shook angrily. Yeah, time management is a bitch. Time management is a bitch. It is. It really is. I say this as a chronic procrastinator. I will say, procrastination is not a symptom of laziness. It is a symptom of something else usually going on. Avoidance, usually. And it's not like avoidance comes out of nowhere. Well, there's a subject right there, I suppose. The state of the, especially American education system, and how it is doing a tremendous disservice to every generation, especially now and going forward. Oh boy, I'm getting an ad break. And Lorelai is taking an ad break. Stick around to support the stream. Oh, you're gonna head out? Well, thank you for dropping by, Boba Fett. I do hope that you're able to get some reading done, and I hope you're able to enjoy later this evening. Alright. Take care, Boba Fett. Well, let's see. Yes, the state of the United States American, as opposed to what, anyway, education system. See, when I went through it, it was still not great. Because, I mean, my generation, when I was in high school, was when September 11th happened. And that was not a fun time. That was not a fun time in United States history. Kind of weird to think of that as an event that's historical. But before that point, education was still pretty regimented. It was still pretty linear. You followed a particular path. I mean, this was all stuff that was instituted back in the days when school was a daycare meant to pump out factory workers, and it pretty much has not changed since then. But even as education skills, in general, education has become far more advanced, and concepts and theory around education has improved. the ability to actually implement a lot of those gains in education theory, the opportunity to use them has diminished. It's kind of fallen by the wayside because, again, you're expected to cram a particular set of education and standards into, I guess, a relatively short amount of time. And of course, emphasizing exclusively things like, math and sciences with some literary education and emphasis. A lot of that has not been, it's been so, to have it be so specific, to have specific requirements means that, say kids who are not mathematically inclined, I don't disagree with a basic education, but I do think that having kids required to get to a certain state with their mathematics, with their math education, can end up sort of taking time away from a kid who's not going to necessarily retain a lot of the information into adulthood. I, smarty pants that I am, I still struggle with math, and I tend to rely on things like calculators and whatnot to help make up the difference for what I'm not personally able to do. But that was even the case back when I was in high school, middle school, etc. It's gotten worse since then. Every horror story that I have heard of kids, I think of the fact that y'all have police presence in your schools. If that's something that's normal to you, that is beyond me. 'Cause here's the thing. I was also in middle school when Columbine happened. And back then, it was something profound and it affected many, many people. It affected the entire country. Shocked and scared people. So much so that was when the advent of putting cops in schools happened. Since then, cops being in schools have done nothing to stop an active situation. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. But they have exacerbated other problems, including arresting 6-year-olds. Interesting time for my voice to crack. I can't say that I am particularly fond of the concept of police being in schools directly, because unfortunately, when there's not, say, an active situation, they get put to other menial things like disciplining kids. However, when a cop is involved in disciplining a kid, is when you start getting 6-year-old kids arrested for doing something like drawing on a desk. That used to be the goddamn standard. In fact, it used to be so much of a thing that there's this old trope where, the next class of kids coming through end up seeing, something written by a student that was similarly at that desk in the past. That used to be such a thing that, it was just accepted that was going to be the case. But because I can understand after a certain point the graffiti ends up impacting the overall appearance of the desk, and sometimes you have to replace them, and in cases of a school with limited funding, they're not able to replace desks very easily. But I don't think that a kid drawing on a desk should be arrested for that. I am thinking of at least a couple of particular instances of that happening, but the idea of there being metal detectors at the entryways to schools, that to me is baffling. And the way that education is handled is even more, this is the lesson that you will learn, than it even was when I was in school. And I find that absolutely disgusting because it is not an environment in which curiosity thrives. And I think that maintaining curiosity is essential into adulthood, and I think that a lot of this pipeline to make people as uncritically examining the world around them as possible has led to a lot of the current division in this country, where being able to analyze someone's words, the way that people are talking to one another, the ability to critically think about what is being said has been drastically undermined as a result of an education system that tells you that if you think wrong, then you get punished. Because that's where you get people who, even if they are normally stubborn anyway, if they think that they're going to get punished for thinking wrong, then they're just going to get angry and yell at other people and force their way into being right. Because to be wrong means you get punished, and no one likes being punished. Oh, good. Do a little bit of a stretch, because I've been sitting here for about an hour or so. And I've talked about it before, but my shoulder has been injured. I think we're going to be coming up on about a year, in fact, that it has been injured in such a way that I have lost a good chunk of function as a result of that. It has caused me tremendous pain until at one point earlier this year, I started actually, it's like only even a few months ago really, but I started doing physical therapy for it, which has not been an inexpensive thing to have to invest in. And it's helped, but I can still stretch and have things pop and hurt and have sudden weakness, making my arm just kind of drop without my actually telling it to, which is fun. Really, really fun. I really, really wish that healthcare were not expensive. But because we live in a capitalist dystopia where people can't easily get access to healthcare, oh well. Anyway. Pre-roll ads are on. Run an ad break to disable them. Well, this is, if anything, kind of confirming I would much rather move to YouTube after this point. I think I will stand a better chance of things doing well over there anyway, since more people are subscribed over on the YouTube than they are over here on the Twitch. That all said, I do hope, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this after the fact, that you're having a decent day. Like I said, I'm having a tired day. Part of why I'm even just doing a talkie day is because I haven't the energy to concentrate on talking, as well as playing something or doing something art-wise. And like I said, very beginning of this, I'm hoping to get into the habit of talking more freely. It might be easier when I actually do, in fact, have subject matter to actually focus on. So I'll probably start polling for discussion topics going forward. Again, if you've got any suggestions, feel free to comment them. Comment them in the chat, comment them in the comments. You know, commenting in the comment section. Weird thought, right? let's see. I have many games that I wish to play, for example, for like Let's Playing. And I would want to do them as a Let's Play. There's slightly less pressure when I can, say, for example, cut out stuff that's not relevant to the playthrough. Something along those lines. And also there are things that can be done in like a Let's Play capacity that are not as easy to do while live and streaming. Easier to focus on what's happening also, as opposed to when there's a chat that I would very much prefer to be paying attention to. But I'm actually kind of curious if people are even watching out this far. Would you be interested in me doing a live retrospective of the Animorphs series? That's something that I've been kind of toying with for a time, and it has not been something that I have actualized. I've considered it for a while, but that was a book series that was very near and dear to me growing up. In fact, I would dare say it was formative to me. Probably a big hand into why I wanted to be a writer growing up. And then I never became a writer. That's how it works, right? Just don't write. That's how you become a writer, right? But it is something that I would like to analyze one way or another, and I think that it would be a subject that I would have a lot of fun with. The idea would be, like, say, for example, reading one book before an actual, like, stream, recording, etc., and then kind of expanding on what was going on in the book, talking about a lot of the features that came up with it, features that came up with that particular installment. That's something that I've considered. Excuse me for yawning. Like I said many times now, this is one of the reasons why I have not streamed as often as I would like to, is because it is really easy for me to run out of steam. And I would like to be... This is an ongoing frustration, actually, because it has a profound impact on my ability to not just stream, but record things or focus on work that needs to be done. It's something that kills my ability to, like, say, recording Let's Plays or recording singing for something or voice acting for something. It certainly affects my ability to concentrate on things like editing, which is a very concentration-heavy activity, and something that I would struggle with, that I do struggle with a lot. That has an impact on how much of a work output I have. But, I mean, I suppose that's another subject that I could get into, probably even more in-depth at some point. Chronic illness is a bitch. And, like, some of it is stuff that I've talked about publicly. Some of it is just literally a result of multiple things that are going wrong that results in chronic fatigue, which is kind of like the main impact, for example, for today, where I don't have the easy ability to maintain energy for long periods of time. And while sitting here talking doesn't sound like it's a lot of activity, it still requires some degree of concentration, and I'm feeling, for example, my throat getting tired. After all, I have been talking for a little over an hour now. Let's try this spray again and actually get it, maybe, on the throat. I will say that it does give me some relief. So it's not bad. But anyway. It's hard to sit and record singing when it takes you, 10, 20 minutes just to set up your microphone and to set up your recording stuff, like your whole recording setup. If you only have 30 minutes to maybe an hour of energy in you to do something, it can be kind of hard to do everything that's involved in that thing. And I've no doubt that there are people out there who hear that and are like, 30 minutes? You run out of energy in 30 minutes? Like, yeah, that's the point. I don't have energy. I don't have concentration. And that's frustrating as hell. It's not that I'm certainly not faking this shit. Obviously I listen to myself saying that, and it's like, yeah, that's very specific protestation. But believe me, I wish that I were faking this, because it would mean that I would then go on to do other things that I want to do. There are a lot of things that I would like to do more of. I would love to have more song covers out there. I would love to have more of my original ideas out there, original works. I would love to have more streaming. I would love to have so many things that I want to do, so many creative pursuits that I can see in my mind so clearly, and run into either a physical or mental block. Especially because I don't exactly have a lot of options in general when it comes to, well, I guess in general. I talk about, revenue stream and whatnot. I know that it gets obnoxious when there's someone who's not producing a lot of content and still kind of like holding their hat out and, asking for support. I want to have more stuff to actually show you guys. I want to have stuff that you guys will be interested in. I'm hoping that what I do have in the works is stuff that will be enjoyed once it actually gets out. I suppose there's always going to be an audience for some of what I do, and that's what I appreciate about the folks that have stuck with me through many years of relative inactivity. But I talk about revenue because, as it stands, I'm not able to hold down a job because I am disabled as a result of multiple conditions. And as of yet, I have yet to convince the government, state or otherwise, that I am disabled. So I have to, I guess, find a way to earn a way to survive. And I'm blessed because I still have a roof over my head right now, and I still have people who do support me on Patreon and otherwise. Special shout out to Shakarian, who has been an MVP both through things like, Ko-Fi donations or, ever since I actually established my throne, chipping in on things over there, or just in general being incredibly supportive. Stuff like that has, as I mentioned earlier, made it a lot easier to get back on here and actually do the streaming, but it is difficult. I know, I'm sitting here talking about a downer subject. I'm just kind of, like I said, talking off the top of my head, but Speaking from the perspective of someone who is, I guess, making excuses for the fact that I don't have the energy to do a lot of what I want to do, if you're someone out there who struggles as well when it comes to getting your energy together or focus or getting your health to cooperate with you in any way, you're not alone. There is a lot of us out there, in fact. But that all said, when I say that I'm excited for some of this stuff, it's because, every day, more or less, there is some degree of progress on these things that I really want to have out there. I don't know if they're going to necessarily find an audience. I don't know if it's going to be something that, draws people to actually watch and enjoy them, but I love the characters. I love the world that they're in. I want that world to exist for other people, even if it's just one other person. I want it to be a story that people watch, listen to, experience. And I can only hope that it meets externally everything that I've got built up in my head. There are some things that are incredibly trope-tastic about it, and many things that sort of break a good chunk of convention. And I am celebrating those tropes just as much as I'm hoping to deconstruct them. A lot of things that you typically see in anime and manga, they kind of come up. Kinda. A lot. And I mentioned song covers and singing in general. One, I don't always have the energy. That's a big component in it. I've also lost lung capacity, which, as it turns out, is kind of maybe integral to singing, especially singing well. And even if it's something that I would be able to record around, there is still a deep intellectual frustration with singing that I can't even do what I used to be able to do. I used to be able to hold notes for a lot longer than I can now. I used to be able to finish more phrases a lot more easily than I do now. And I'm not exactly sure what the underlying cause is, only that I have lost significant ability to perform. And even if what I perform is not bad, it's still hard to hear the difference. And especially because singing is very important to me. I was 4 when The Little Mermaid came out. The original 1989 release of My Little Mermaid. Jesus fucking Christ. My Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid. When that movie came out, and hey, Joshua Time. When that movie came out and every little girl was singing Part of Your World, I would actually go out on the playground and sing it specifically to other kids that would gather around. And I remember that very distinctly. I would sing it all the time. I would sing walking to school and home from school. I used to sing all the time. I have noticed you, Joshua Time 23. Thank you for coming to the stream. Thank you for following about a week ago. I am glad to have you on board here. I hope you feel noticed. You are certainly noticed, and I do definitely appreciate folks coming by, especially because that was your first time chatting here. It actually shows that this is the first time you've said anything here, so glad to have you. But yeah, I do still kind of sing all the time. Not nearly as much as I used to. But it is and has been such a part of me that not being able to do it the way that I used to, it kind of, I'm not exaggerating when I say that it kind of just tears me up. I think I might have damaged my voice at one point. Even more frustrating, I don't know exactly when it particularly started happening. But there's a good chance that about 5 years ago, maybe 4, probably 4 years ago, I started getting treatment for some of my ongoing chronic health issues. And as a result of that, I ended up becoming sick. Like, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I got sick in such a way where I was emptying my stomach at first, every few minutes. And then it would do once a day. And then it would do once a couple of times a week, and so on and so forth. And it's largely under control now, but I do wonder if that didn't end up actually being something that damaged my voice, because it significantly impacted. I think it did. I know that after that point I started struggling a lot more. And thank you, Joshua. There are times when I'm proud of my voice. There are times when I'm not so proud of my voice. I feel like I sit in a very middle ground when it comes to my ability to sing. I sing well enough that I know I'm not singing well. Like, it's almost that old paradox of the more I know, the more I realize I know nothing. And of course, it's silly to have your self-worth tied up in something like that. But like I said, singing was a big part of me. It is a big part of me. And not being able to do it as well as I used to hurts. I say, as I mention things like I've got a lyrical cover of some music coming up relatively soon, one that is actually going to be relatively big in terms of collaboration, which should have been a simple thing, but instead I was like, no, I want 12 extra voices in on this project with me. I'm going to have 2 other main vocalists and then an additional 10 chorus vocalists as a part of this, because that's what I want to do when I'm struggling to sing and struggling to find the motivation to work on things. Let's make it as complicated as possible. That's logical, right? I have other song covers, and I think, because I'll even say this, part of what I've decided is I'm not a professional singer, and I'm probably never going to be a professional singer. But I enjoy singing, and I want to sing for the joy of singing. It creates a bit of a problem in that I do worry that eventually someone's going to happen across a song cover or singing in general that is not the best possible singing, and that becoming an example for people to trash on. When did I meet the man on the internet? Well, that was 2015, right after Undertale came out. And Alex was in another project. It was a very ill-fated project. I think we chatted a couple of times. And then he posted casting for the musical. I auditioned and got in. So that's honestly it. That's the story. I will say I do not currently have any affiliation with them outside of the work that I have previously done for the channel. But, in coming to terms with the fact that I'm not going to be a professional singer, that I'm not going to be particularly special on YouTube when it comes to doing singing and song covers and the like, I've been trying to grant myself the grace to do poorly. And I did that with the Over the Moon cover, Ultraluminary. It was not necessarily my best work, but it was what I had. And it seemed to go over well enough, I think. And I've got more coming. I've even been deciding to, again, amp up the difficulty and try singing in another language. I'm considering many covers, but one of the ones that I've been working on recently has been Butterfly from the original Digimon opening. So, of course, jumping straight into Japanese, I don't speak it, certainly not fluently. I know a handful of phrases. I can introduce myself. Konnichiwa, watashi wa Lorelai desu. Hajimemashite, yoroshiku onegai shimasu. And a handful of other things. But singing a whole song in Japanese, less intuitive for me, but I've had practice with it before too. With multiple other songs that I've wanted to cover that only have a Japanese language available. I mean, there are lyrical or English adaptations of several of these, and I could go for those, but why not make my life harder and try to do it in the original Japanese? Again, it's a problem. I keep making things more difficult for myself. Let's see. I have no idea if anyone in this who's watching this either now or in the past would even be familiar with the Japanese opening to Digimon. Most of the United States individuals, because I only heard the original intro literally this year. But yeah, even as now, I'm probably going to stumble over this. Probably going to stumble over this because it's not my native tongue, and also I'm still practicing with all of this, but Mugentai na yume no oto no 何もない世の中じゃそうさ愛しい思いも負けそうになるけど捨てしがちないイメージだらけの頼りない翼でもきっと飛べるさ On my love Just the chorus right there. I need to get into the habit of singing, and I'll even say singing publicly because, yay, I've got anxiety. Why you want to adopt Split Kid? Speaking frankly, I don't. Gokigen きらめく風に乗って今すぐ君に会いに行こう余計なことなんて忘れた方がましさこれ以上しゃりてる時間はない Kind of scraping the bottom of my range there. Also, watch Digimon. It's a good fucking show. I just actually finished an entire run-through of pretty much the entire show outside of, like, I think a couple of other seasons that I just never watched. But, the original timeline all the way up through actually, Kizuna, I think it is. As well as the Digimon Tamers, Digimon Frontiers, and more recently, the Digimon 2020 reboot, which we actually just finished not all that long ago. That's a good show, surprisingly, despite some of the interesting adaptational choices that they made in the English dub. Gets surprisingly deep and dark and twisted. At one point there are some characters that are like blatantly killed on screen, and then they play it off like, oh, they escaped back to blah blah where they'll be safe, and then they're never seen again. Who is your favorite Undertale character? Well, there are a handful. For me, it's something of a toss-up between Toriel and Sans. I know everyone likes the character of Sans. I will say that for me, it's not like the internet famous reason why everyone likes him. I like the character because I identify way too strongly with him. Which might surprise some people, but I was even talking earlier about how I struggle with motivation and depression and all sorts of fun things going on. But I like to think that at my core I have an integrity and I try to stand up against what's wrong when it's important to. I do like the character of Toriel for a number of reasons, and I will be a Toriel apologist. Especially in regards to the people who really want to shit on her for leaving Asgore. It's like, there are many reasons why that relationship was unfortunately dysfunctional. Never mind the particular inciting incident. So, Joshua, I have the distinct impression that you followed me here because of my work with men on the internet. How did you hear of me? I mean, how did you find me now as opposed to before now? Because I haven't been working with them since 2018. Oh, wait, no, there was a really long delay after Chrono Trigger between when we recorded it versus when it actually went out. I have not been working with them since 2018. Oh, excuse me. YouTube? Okay. I know that I'm in a handful of other projects as well. You might be able to find me on Rec D's channel, specifically, and Friday Night Funkin' as Mommy Mirrorist. What a surprise! I play another mother. I've also begun posting to my channel again more recently. Well, specifically streams. VODs from this thing. I've said it before, but I'm saying it again because more active people, or at least an active person now, but I'm probably going to be moving this over to YouTube. But so long as you're following me on Twitter, you'll usually have a link going up whenever I stream. I do try to stream consistently on Saturdays like this, starting at roughly 3 p.m. my time, which is 6 p.m. Eastern. That's a question you're going to have to ask them. I mean, I know what the answer was when I spoke with JoJo last in probably 2019. But things might have changed since then. Oh, there's an ad playing right now. Showing Pokemon Go, no less. What a surprise! Pokemon. I haven't even been all of that. I haven't done a lot of Pokemon stuff on my channel or anything. I hope to do more. Then you go, whoa, 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 whoa. Do I still do the Ojo-sama laugh? Is that what you're asking? Yes, well, not regularly, but that is still roughly the personality, I suppose, that I have for my online persona. It's not necessarily the evil anime girl. It's supposed to be, when I say Ojo-sama, it's meant to be the rich girl. You know, the mistress of a family. The young miss of a family. But yes, the... Or even the adult version of that with women who just grew up being Ojo-samas. I can't say that it's a regular occurrence, though. I don't have any opportunities to be little Ojo-sama. Alright. I think I have officially depleted, I think, the last of my energy right now. Which, I mean, I felt it coming from the beginning anyway. I'm actually surprised I was able to get roughly an hour and a half in here. That said, because many of you would not have been here, excuse me, since the start, I do have a new starting soon screen. Okay, it is still picking up my mic. Some more recent art that I did. And it's my persona. It's Lorelei greeting you warmly, telling you, yes, I'm going to be starting soon. Although I've already started. And ironically, I'm about to finish. But, I'm trying to slowly add more assets. I hope to eventually have an actual VTuber concept. Senpai, there's the classic trope in anime where it is a male thing, I guess, when it comes to senpai notice me. But, like, it literally just means upperclassman. You know, someone in a grade higher than you. Or someone who was, in the same education or the same practice as you. So you can get into a job and someone who's been at that job longer than you can also be a senpai. So just like that, kohai is the inverse, an underclassman. And it's whomever is in the younger class or the less experienced. Anyway, so I got angry for a split second. I'm actually gonna head off. This has been fun. I hope you guys are... You guys, I say you, both those of you who showed up live and chatted. Good to have you with us, Joshua Time 23. And those of you who are watching this after the fact when this VOD goes up on YouTube, I hope you're having a good one. I really do. And I'm hoping to try and do more consistent streaming, as I always say I'm going to. I would do all of these self-indulgent, follow me on Patreon if you want to contribute over on ko-fi.com/imlorelei. All of these things help me out, especially right now, especially as things continue to get ridiculously more expensive. But that's never going to be a mandatory thing, not for the content that I produce, which is at the moment kind of nothing. I will hopefully see you guys next week, where hopefully I will have more things for you guys to look at and enjoy, and more things to talk about, maybe something a little bit more focused. In the meantime, take care, everyone.